IntelliJ Community Edition, gone. IntelliJ Ultimate Edition, gone. After 16 years, JetBrains has just announced that it's killing both of these product lines and introducing something entirely new instead. And they're removing your ability to choose. You have to use this new thing, all right? So there's a bit of both good news and bad news if you're an IntelliJ user, but the timing of this announcement tells us that something bigger is happening in the world of development tools that they're not talking directly about. Let me explain what's actually happening here. So the current version of IntelliJ, as of me recording this video right now, is 2025.1.3. Starting with 2025.3, JetBrains is merging both the community and Ultimate into a single distribution. One installer, one IDE. Right? Think of it like this. So let's say you have two separate cars, right? Like a basic model and a luxury model. Now you get one car where some features are locked behind a subscription, right? You can do the driving for free, but like you want heated seats or premium sound system, you need to pay. That's what's happening with IntelliJ right now, okay? What this means in practice is when you download IntelliJ IDEA after 2025.3, which is coming, it's coming soon. Once that happens, you are going to get the full IDE. No more decision between community and Ultimate, right? All the Ultimate features are sitting there in the code with what you download. No matter what you want, you're going to download that one thing, that unified edition, and you're going to get everything, okay? The difference is, without a subscription, certain features just won't activate. But according to the announcement, don't worry, everything that was free before still remains free, plus they've thrown in some extras, all right? For instance, one of the biggest reasons why I've seen people go for the Ultimate version was Spring framework related support. So things like Spring syntax highlighting and the new project wizard for creating new Spring Boot projects. You couldn't do that in the community edition. And a lot of people went to the Ultimate edition because of the Spring features, right? This is previously an Ultimate only feature, but now they're saying this will be free. Database schema viewing, this will be free. Project wizards for other frameworks like Quarkus or Micronaut, also free. So they're essentially moving that line between free and paid, and they're essentially moving it in favor of free users. So the change is more psychological, right? Before you had to make a choice up front, should I download community or should I download Ultimate? Now there's no choice. You download IntelliJ IDEA, period, right? It's the freemium model, right? The basic product is free, but if you want to try Ultimate features, you register and those extra features unlock, right? No reinstalling something else, no migration. And this is actually where I have a bunch of questions that I'll come to in a bit. But before that, there's one more good news as pitched by the announcement. Think about what the current experience is in case your Ultimate license expires, right? You have the Ultimate license, you paid for it, and now it's expired. You can't use Ultimate anymore. You gotta get out of that luxury car and start driving the basic model, right? So you need to uninstall the Ultimate version, download and install the community version. Now, since both are the same application, you no longer have to juggle between those two. You have the license, the same thing works as Ultimate, and without the license, it gracefully downgrades to what they're calling the free tier, which is essentially everything that was in the community edition, plus those extras that they're making available to everyone now. This is obvious behavior if you think about it. The announcement calls it graceful license expiration experience, but honestly, for me, it's not that big a deal. Also, in my opinion, there's mostly a problem with personal licenses. If you're like a professional developer, your company probably pays for your work license, right? But on your personal laptop, this can make a difference, sorta. Okay, whatever. It's there. That's one feature that they're claiming. I think this is just the JetBrains acknowledging something that we've always felt for years, like this hard boundary between community and Ultimate was kind of artificial, right? The distinction was never two separate IDEs, right? It was always one IDE with some features locked behind a paywall. Now I think they're just being honest about it. But however, here's something that matters to many people. The open source commitment isn't changing. You might wonder if they bring in Ultimate to the unified package, this is mixing up things, right? Open source versus proprietary. Well, here's what JetBrains is saying, right? They're saying they're committed to continue publishing the source code on GitHub, like the open source piece that formed the community edition. That will still be open source, still on GitHub. In fact, they're actually improving that aspect a little bit. They're adding CI/CD pipelines with GitHub Actions, so anyone can kind of fork and build their own version. They are even planning to publish pre-built binaries of the open source version directly on GitHub. So if you are the type who refuses to run any proprietary code on your machine, you can still get that pure open source build. It just won't be called the community edition anymore. It'll be called the GitHub build or whatever they want to call it. But remember this is important. I'll get back to this shortly, right? The open source version still exists on GitHub, and you're going to get a GitHub build that you can download for the open source version of IntelliJ IDE. Now, at this point, you might be wondering, why has JetBrains made the switch now? I have a theory, okay, and I'll tell you about it. But first, let me call out something that is very, very important to address. You know what my first Java IDE was about 20 years ago? It was this guy called NetBeans. And after a while, I switched to this guy called Eclipse. I am sure you've heard about it. This was the OG Java IDE for a long, long time. And guess how much it costs? $0, right? Eclipse is open source. In fact, both Eclipse and NetBeans, they're still usable today, and they're pretty capable IDEs. You can start using them for free, and there's no upgrade, right? It's the whole entire product is free, and this is what I started my career using. And then there was a colleague who mentioned IntelliJ IDEA to me, right? He said, it's so much better. The refactoring tools are amazing. The code completion actually understands what you're trying to do. I was like, okay, let's try it out. I went to download it, and I saw the price tag. Wait, what? You want me to pay for an IDE? This was 20 years ago, okay? I was in a world where I was using Eclipse and NetBeans. I was like, are you crazy? I mean, I didn't even have a credit card back then, okay? It was a long time ago. And this was the reality that JetBrains faced when they started the product, right? They charged money for an IDE in a space that was filled with open source and free IDEs. But they could afford to do it because they had built what was arguably the best Java IDE in the market. Okay, no doubts about it. It was miles ahead of Eclipse and NetBeans. So it worked, right? It wasn't that IntelliJ was marginally better, right? It was transformatively better. Right? The difference was like riding a bicycle versus riding something which runs on gas. You would feel, if you've been an Eclipse user and your first time using IntelliJ, you could feel that it was much, much better. So despite the free alternatives that were available at the time, developers, especially companies, started paying. Okay, but the reality did stand out that this was perhaps the only commercial offering in a sea of free solutions. It stood out so much that JetBrains, they made this brilliant move of open sourcing the core of IntelliJ IDEA and saying, well, we are open source too, right? A part of IntelliJ is open source, and that's what created the community edition, right? Suddenly you could get the IntelliJ magic for free, right? Now we had a free option. It had all the features you needed to start learning, but it was limited for anything that a typical enterprise developer would need. So developers started with community, they would hit those limitations, and they would switch over to Ultimate, right? This dual edition model kind of that was their standard. They ran it for about 16 years. It satisfied the open source folks. It gave students and hobbyists like a free option to get started, and it still generated revenue from the professionals who needed the advanced features. So for 16 years, the model was steady and it was working fine. So why change it now? But I want you to think about this for a second. What's the biggest selling point of IntelliJ IDEA? It's its amazing code completion, right? The way it understands your code base, the way it indexes every class, every known method signature, and it can refactor across your entire project with really, really good precision. It's awesome, and that's why we pay for it. But that's presuming something. It presumes that you, as the developer, writes the code for it to autocomplete. That you, as a developer, control-click or command-click a method to navigate that code. that you as a developer press tab to generate those code completions. You know where this is going, right?
The era of AI is in the near future. And I would say it's actually now. It started already.
In the next year, half the development is going to be done by AI.
I think we'll be there in 3 to 6 months where AI is writing 90% of the code.
Programming front, AI is getting really good at programming.
Yeah, AI. So everybody's vibe coding these days with AI. Typing your code is old school, no? As more AI tools like GitHub Copilot and Claude and ChatGPT, they continue to mature and kind of play more and more of a role in the developer landscape. They are expected to handle more and more of the boilerplate generation, the code generation, and more of coding in general. And here's the thing, these AI tools, they won't care for what IDE you're using. They won't need IntelliJ's sophisticated indexing. They just generate the code. So think about what this could mean. One of IntelliJ's core value proposition, understanding your code better than any other tool, that value prop may become less critical when AI can generate like the correct import statements, they can wire up dependencies, even write your unit tests without even needing to index your project. So is it important for an IDE to be able to index all classes properly if the LLM generates the wiring and gets the file going? Given a choice between a well-indexed IDE and a smart LLM-based workflow that does the work for you through natural language, which is better? If you think about like the AI-first editors like Cursor or Windsurf, like every interaction is designed around AI assistance. You don't navigate to a class definition. You ask the AI to explain where the class is and what it does, right? You don't manually refactor. You describe what you want changed to the AI. So they're kind of reimagining what an IDE should be in this age of large language models. And they're gaining tractions fast. I don't know if you believe in it or not. Do you believe in AI taking over our jobs? But right now, they are gaining tractions. I know senior developers, people who've used IntelliJ for a long time, who are switching to Cursor. Not because it has better Java support, right? It doesn't. In fact, VS Code and its sibling IDEs, they really suck at Java, right? IntelliJ is still the best-in-class experience for Java. But these people are still switching because the AI integration is seamless, that the traditional IDE features, they matter less and less. Now, put yourself in JetBrains' shoes, right? You are the company who's created IntelliJ. You've built the best traditional IDE in the market. Your indexing is awesome. Your refactoring tools are awesome. But suddenly there is this new generation of developers who are writing code by describing what they want to an AI, right? They're not using your carefully crafted code completion because Copilot already filled your entire method, right? They're not using your refactoring tools because they just asked Claude to refactor. Well, guess what? JetBrains have their own AI assistants, right? There's this Junie coding assistant that does something similar to what the other AI products offer. I don't know how well it's received. I looked at Junie in the marketplace. It had like 2 stars with a lot of downloads. So people don't seem to like it, but it's there. And I can bet they want to introduce that to every IntelliJ user, free or not. And I think that's where the answer lies. So I want to add a disclaimer. I don't work for JetBrains, so obviously I don't know about their thinking and decision-making process, but I can tell you my assessment of this move looking through the lens of the current development in the IDE space. And I think there are a couple of reasons, right? First, by removing this friction between community or ultimate, do I use this versus that? They've removed this friction, they're removing this choice. Now they're making it easier for users to access all their features, including their own AI assistant. I can bet that they're going to push AI assistant no matter if you are free or paid because it's going to be in the unified version. They need the users to see the full value prop before they jump ship to an AI first editor like Cursor, right? Because once someone gets comfortable with Cursor or Windsurf, why would they come back to a traditional IDE, even one as good as IntelliJ? Yeah? So that's the first reason. And secondly, by this move, I think what they've very cleverly done is they've introduced this new product that's between the open source version and the ultimate version that they can use to introduce these AI features. Think about the differences between like the community version versus the ultimate version, right? Community version was the open source option and all the features were free. And ultimate version is the proprietary one where all the features are paid. Now, they have consolidated these two into one uniform distribution version. But guess what? We still have two versions. Yes, what they've done now is still two versions. So you have the unified distribution, which is the free plus paid upgrade, and you have the GitHub builds, which is fully open source. So this gives them an opportunity to add more non-open source stuff to the free and give people an upgrade path. I think they're betting on the fact that most people will just download and use IntelliJ through the website, and they're going to get the unified version. People are not going to go to GitHub and get the GitHub builds, right? They're going to go to the IntelliJ website. So what they've done is they've introduced this unified version as a way to add features that kind of blur the line between free and commercial, while at the same time not making the open source folks unhappy, right? Not to disrupt the pure open source offering that's available on GitHub, whatever, you can still use it. But now this becomes this core offering for them, and they can layer on AI and all this other stuff. Because you see, IntelliJ has competition, right? First, there's VS Code, which is free, open source, and with an extension ecosystem, which is amazing, right? They have an extension for everything. It's very popular for non-Java programmers, right? It does suck for serious Java development, like I said, like basic stuff, sure, but I don't think VS Code is usable for enterprise Java development today. Like I've tried multiple times. They keep adding Java support, but no way close to IntelliJ. And then you have language-specific alternatives. For Java, Eclipse is still around. It's not sexy, but it works, right? NetBeans too, right? It's like they're reliable old cars that refuse to die. They get you from A to B, okay? But here is the thing, and this is important for serious Java development. IntelliJ is still the king. Ask any Java developer, like look at any Java developer survey, look at any enterprise Java shop. IntelliJ still dominates, right? The refactoring tool, the framework support, the deep understanding of the JVM ecosystem. Nobody else comes even close. Now the question is, how long will this advantage last? Because this new competition isn't trying to beat IntelliJ at being a better Java IDE, right? Cursor isn't trying to be a better Java IDE. It's saying, why use these low-level code refactor tools when you can just describe what you want to an LLM and have it generate the diffs? Does it work? Well, not all the time. The whole AI taking over story is really a different topic, and I will be sharing my thoughts on that in another video in another time. But I just want you to see how the project-aware benefits of IntelliJ is in contrast with the AI features where the LLM figures this out by giving it the file context. So either the whole AI coding thing is going to succeed and the major value prop that IntelliJ has will not be valuable anymore, or this AI thing fails and we're back to where things were and things have always been. Now, here is the thing that makes things even funnier, in my opinion, because JetBrains isn't just IntelliJ. They have this whole lineup, right? They have PyCharm for Python. They have WebStorm for JavaScript. They have PHP Storm for PHP. Is anybody using PHP now? There's Ruby Mine for Ruby, Golang. You get the idea. They have multiple versions, right? Each language gets its own specialized IDE, and each one costs money separately. And honestly, I've always found this weird, like really weird. Because here's the thing, these IDEs, they're all built on the same IntelliJ platform, like same core, same UI, same everything. The main difference is which plugins are bundled and which language gets the first class treatment. So these language specific products are designed and the UI is built specifically for that language, right? When you buy PyCharm, for example, you're not just getting the Python plugin bundled in with IntelliJ. You're getting like an IDE where every UI element, like every toolbar, menu, workflow has been designed for Python development, right? The project structure shows Python packages, the way Python developers think about them. And same with WebStorm for JavaScript and all that stuff. IntelliJ Ultimate, though, takes a different approach. It's designed for polyglot programmers, people who work on multiple languages on the same project, for example. You can install the Python plugin, the JavaScript plugin, the Go plugin, and yes, you can write code in all these languages, but the UI remains generic. It's not geared towards or tuned to one language. It's, I can say, optimized for Java first, and everything else gets adapted to fit that model. But it's mostly like it doesn't have these specialized workflow optimizations. So this is the reality, but the community has been complaining about this for years, okay? So if you go to any JetBrains forum or Reddit thread or Twitter discussion, people go like, why do I need to pay for these separate products when I'm a full stack developer? Why can't I just use one IDE that does everything? Do I have to install WebStorm and PyCharm separately? Why not consolidate that, right? So JetBrains' answer has always been some variation of, okay, we have specialized tools for specialized developers. Each IDE is optimized for its specialized language ecosystem. Okay, fine, this has been happening for a while now, but here is a twist that's going to make people at JetBrains a little uncomfortable. And you can guess what's coming.
AI.
AI. Because you see, LLMs don't have PyCharm, they don't have WebStorm. LLMs are inherently polyglot and they don't care about language specializations. You don't have a Java ChatGPT or a Python ChatGPT, right? The same model handles all languages: Java, Python, JavaScript, Go, Rust. Hell, they'll even write COBOL if you ask it nicely. And it also switches context seamlessly, right? One moment you're writing a Spring Boot controller and next moment you can ask it to do a React component. Everything happens in the same place. You don't have language specific stuff, okay? So this entire premise of language specific IDEs is that each language has unique patterns, unique tooling that deserves special attention. And that makes perfect sense in a world where humans are writing all the code. But if AI is increasingly handling the boilerplate and the syntax, then these language-specific patterns, like what's the point of maintaining separate IDEs? The AI doesn't care if you're writing Python or JavaScript. It knows both. It can even translate one to another, right? So here's JetBrains unifying IntelliJ editions and simplifying their model while still maintaining these different IDEs for different languages. It's kind of strange. So the community has been asking for years, just give us one IDE that does everything well. And JetBrains has Ultimate, which is supposed to do that, but then they also have these separate things and say, no, here are specialized tools. But now with AI and LLM integration, we are probably saying, well, language boundaries don't matter as much as you think. Well, irrespective of AI, I've always felt that this IDE fragmentation was mainly driven by a business model, and they were searching for a justification, not the other way around, right? You can argue that each IDE has optimizations for its language, but is it really? I don't know. I'm honestly not convinced. But what I predict is, I could be wrong, but what I predict is in the future, JetBrains will announce some kind of universal IDE strategy. Maybe not a full merger, but something that acknowledges this new reality. Because this current model of pay separately for each language, that's going to look increasingly absurd in an LLM world where these boundaries between these languages are blurring. They're kind of already taking this first step with the IntelliJ unification, but the real question is, when will they admit that their entire fleet of language-specific IDEs is not as sensible anymore? Well, we will see. I think overall, this move for unified IntelliJ with the Community Edition and the Ultimate Edition going away and they're having this unified distribution, this thing can be a good thing if the intent is what they claim, right? I mean, adding new features to the free version of thing that you can use without paying, especially the Spring features, right? This is great news for current users of the Community Edition. But whether it's good long-term or not depends on how they position the ultimate features in this unified edition. Are they going to push a lot of AI stuff? Are they going to show prominent grayed out features and nag the user to upgrade to Ultimate? Well, how they handle it, we'll see and find out. Once it's available, I'll give it a spin. I'll let you know what I find.